herbs that are really medicinal and can be really good for your body, but then others can be really dangerous. But then Africans, I would say Nigerians, they classify all bitter herbal medicine as having medicinal purposes, which is not really true. As far as it is bitter, it is working for my system. That is the mentality an average Nigerian has, which is, it's really bizarre, to be very honest. Like, for example, some people chew bitter leaf. They'll just be like, oh yes, bitter leaf is good, but then you don't even know the usefulness of bitter leaf in your system, but then you're taking it because it is bitter, therefore it is helpful.
My mother knows, please. She knows. Go on, please.
And okay, for example now, cinnamon. Cinnamon is a substance used in curry. Yeah, it is actually good for, it has a very strong anti-diabetic property, and it's good for diabetic patients, and I think it's something they need to know. And then sage actually has, it has a very good property of increasing your brain's memory function. And I actually didn't know that until I started getting acquainted with this topic. But then there are some herbs, like for example, this manpower thing that they sell. These outside people.
I want to ask you why. I want to ask you why that was the thing you went for. But go on.
Okay, like for example, I was on a bus, a public transport, one particular day, and the driver just saw one outside boy hawking it and be like, "You're okay." I won't exactly say everything that was said, but then this guy just opted to buy it and just finished the entire bottle there. I was just looking at the man. Wait, first of all, how do you know that this thing would not have, even if it works for that particular thing you're buying it for, how do you know it won't work against other functions of your body? I feel like people buy herbal drugs ignorantly.
Okay, talking about herbal drugs is something that every Nigerian child, grew up to see. If you have not drunk agbo jedi, or your mother has not seen bath you with lots of many leaves. I don't know if you grew up in Nigeria.
I grew up in Nigeria. I've never tested agbo.
That's it.
Nobody baits me in things that I didn't know.
I was
so
posh babe.
Lots of, oh God, don't do that. But the thing is, I grew up with this. Not like it was a practice, but at some point it was just bound to happen. Or the fact that maybe when you have measles in your body, they chew sugar cane and they spit it on your body. So those were trado mechanisms that people adopted on the set before modern medicine. Now, while I was doing my research, I found that trado medicine go way back 60,000 years ago up to the 4th century. And in the Egyptian history, they have lots of writings of how they could use this leaf or that leaf or this stuff and that stuff as the trado. Every Nigerian has experience, even if you have not touched it like Joyce would say, but you've heard about herbal medicine. With passing ring road, and you wear light clothes, you wear pink clothes, and they see you, they see me. Buy your ginseng root. Your ginseng root is good for you, blah blah blah.
Okay, ginseng root is actually good.
Yes, it's actually good. But the thing is, the fear about herbal medicine is actually the quality control, the process it goes through. You cannot really ascertain if you really went through the right process and if these things are actually certified by the bodies that's supposed to certify them. For instance, in America, the Food and Drugs Association certified certain of this herbal supplements. And if they see that the quality control is less than the standard that it should be administered to the public, they withdraw that particular product from the market. But coming to African settings, you see that the regulatory bodies are not really putting in so much to make sure that this product, either they're refined, because over the years, these products have had the way of refining themselves. So you could see ginseng not in a raw form, but you could see it in the capsules, or you could see it in a drink form. So and our regulatory bodies, they don't tend to sit and say, okay, how can we make sure this drug has standard quality control that can make it consumable, to the customers.
Now, there's one baffling thing about herbal drugs that I've noticed. First of all, it works, especially the ones that are certified. It works. Like, for example, there is one particular malarial herbal drug that's a pharmacist. Okay, I don't know if the person is a pharmacist right now, since we've already clarified who a pharmacist and a chemist is. Okay, probably a herbalist. Okay, a herbalist prescribed this drug for me. It works for malaria. because that particular day I wasn't having so much funds. I was in school back then, and I wasn't having so much funds to get the actual expensive malarial drugs. So I opted for that. And surprisingly, it worked. So back then, I kept using it over time, but then there was something I noticed about it. It would work for a particular period of time, but then I would fall sick with that same illness. I'll just fall sick so suddenly again after I work. So I asked a friend of mine, who's a doctor, and he told me that yes, herbal drugs will work instantly, but most of them, they will just work as like a pain reliever. It will just relieve you for that particular moment, but it will not treat it. Yeah. So back then I had this conception that yes, herbal drugs they are the best, they are cheap and they are affordable. But then they have let's just say they are just relieving you temporarily. Some of them, they are relieving you temporarily. So I think you should really opt for the ones that, although they are really expensive, they might be really expensive, but then I feel like they are more effective and they will do you lots of good than the herbal ones, which you don't really know so much about.
Joy.
I think primarily, most likely, herbal drugs, the practitioners and everything get a bad rep. Like Donald Trump would say, there are good people on both sides, there are good points on both sides. Now, a lot of people, while they go for herbal drugs are affordable, they're accessible, and they're quality to a reasonable extent. Now, these 3 points are the 3 cardinal points of universal healthcare all over the world. So if you do opt for the herbal option, it's not bad. And then, of course, it has its advantages, which are quite a lot. And I feel like the advantages are myths, and I would explain why. People claim that they're affordable, right? But there's no real fixed price range for herbal drugs. There are some that are over the top expensive, and there are some that are cheap. And then there's also the one that's saying they're accessible. You could be inside your house, you could be in your room, and you start hearing, but when we share for cough, but when we share for chest pain, it's going to come and meet you. Whether you're searching for it or not. And then, of course, there's the accessibility, affordability, and then there's the quality. Most likely, you take it, you're going to almost feel instant relief. Now, unlike the orthodox drugs, where you have it behind the packet that says, if you don't feel better in 3 days, go to the hospital. And then there are the ones that even bring out your symptoms. Like you take it today, and then all your symptoms come to the forefront, and you have to suffer for like 2-3 days before you start feeling better. Give or take, the manpower, you take it that morning, you are the man, and you're having the power that evening. So it's I'm serious now, what is this? So all of this are really great. But of course, anything that has good sides has bad sides. A very major problem is that before an orthodox drug is brought into the market, it goes through several tests and several stages of screening. They start with animals, and then they start with like rabbits, then they move to like monkeys, and then they try on human beings to make sure that when it finally comes out, it is fit, and then they know the possible side effects that could come out. That it is, I have not seen it yet, maybe it exists, but I have not seen a child medical drug that came with side effects that, you should probably expect. I think it exists because it really modernizes these days. But then in orthodox drugs, you know what you're up against. Another thing is that a lot of child medical practitioners do not run tests. Now, that thing you spoke about, now if you had gone to an actual standard hospital, they would have advised you to run a test. And when you run a test, you get to find out which precise parasite is responsible for what is going on in your body. Now, the doctors, the child medical practitioners do not have that. They can't tell you that it is E. coli, or is this bacteria, or is this parasite. They look at you, tell them how they feel, and then they guess what could possibly be the problem.
Now, malaria.
Okay.
Anyways. And then another disadvantage is that sometimes it doesn't add up. As much as we know that aloe vera does a world of things, right? It's just odd when I'm like, I want to get pregnant, aloe vera. I have malaria, aloe vera. Measles, aloe vera. Abortion, aloe vera. I mean, I feel like it should be fine line to a certain extent. Even the orthodox drugs, it's not just one thing. It's usually a collaboration of several different chemicals tested together. So I feel like both of them, both orthodox and traditional drugs, are amazing. But we need to be able to fine-tune them in a way that we can, the con can or rather the pro can outweigh the con?
I think the many things you really talked about, many people don't discover that herbal drugs are not a one-size-fits-all. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all. So when you have a particular drug, now some of the things about this compounds or this leaves or this medicines, you know, it's that they contain certain phytochemicals, you know, that would actually work. But if you, like you said, having the orthodox drugs, when you have a combination of different phytochemicals from different compounds, you know, it makes it much more effective. Now, if you're applying you're trying to use a herbal medicine that has just one phytochemical substance, and it attends to your sickness. Your sick, maybe you have malaria, and you chew bitter leaf, and bitter leaf has lumefantrine, but bitter leaf does not have artemether. That's the other compound. But in your orthodox drug, you know, you have a two combination of this from different compounds, and it makes it much more effective. So it is not a one size fits all shoe. See herbal drugs as broad spectrum, and it attends to all kinds of diseases, attends to your athletic foot, attends to your brain disease. It's not like that. It's that scientists has had a way of redefining herbal medicine. I know you want to say something right now, but the truth is that scientists has had a way of redefining herbal medicine in a way that they tend to pick out all the phytogens from different compounds, merge them together, and make it have a desirable effect to treat diseases properly.
And I think another problem that we face in Nigeria is that the tradomedical practitioners are not organized enough to have such a strong fund. You know, I used to always think that, you know, they were really low-key until I was part of a body that organized like a trade fair for tradomedical practitioners. It was for like a week. It was a madness. It had to be extended for a month. The patronage was immensely high. So we found out that a lot of people wanted to patronize these people. They just didn't know where to find them. And then finding them in one spot really, really helped. I mean, we have the traditional medical and practicing doctors in Nigeria. They have an association. And they even have a website, which I just found out. But the odds that Papa Saliu in Wotubu probably doesn't have internet access, and he wants to use tradomedical drugs, or he wants to become a tradomedical practitioner. Maybe he has the information passed down from his father, his grandfather. Now, he probably wouldn't even know that he had to register online. And then we don't even know which body is in charge of controlling this. Is it the Standard Organization of Nigeria? Is it NAFDAC? Which Nigerian body is in charge of covering the quality of the drugs that are produced? Because Nigeria is not the only country that has tradomedical practitioners. Kenya has an entire ministry dedicated to tradomedical practitioners. The reason why ginseng root is so big today is because the Chinese have spent so much time in publicizing how good it is. And you know, there's several companies, Chinese companies, they call them food supplements. There are mushrooms, there's the ginseng in different packages because they've found a way to organize it and control it to make it appealing to the general public. So I think the major problem that we are facing is that we do not have one body controlling it, or the body is not loud enough and vocal enough for us to know that this thing is being controlled, we can join and we can use. I feel like that is a problem that needs to be fixed.
Okay, Juliet, you're going to say something.
Okay, like what you said, that there's no particular drug that will work for probably your leg, your chest, your everything, but that's not what the typical person that sells these tradomedical drugs would say. They'll say it works for ulcer, it works for kidney problem, it works for your eyes, your spine, your this and that. And then there's a question I think I would like to ask a herbalist, yeah? Now, one particular herbalist I know, every drug she produces is with this alcohol, ogogoro, and it is always in the form of roots. You know these roots, these traditional roots. Yeah? But then it works.
Like I said, if you're a chemist or if you have an idea of how these things work, every compound, every tradomedical medicine, or maybe the leaf or the fruit, they have what they call phytochemicals. Now, if you pass them through ethanol, ethanol is a carrier substance that will extract these phytochemicals. Most of the drugs we take actually have lots of ethanol. And so when you take your cough syrup, they'll tell you to make you drowsy. Why does it make you drowsy? Because of the active ingredients in it. So it's not, what we're just trying to say is that there are no safety measures. They don't know what's the proportion? You know, they're supposed to combine this and this and this and this. That's why most times, when you take those drugs, you you overreact to them, or sometimes you come down, you become worse off than how you were feeling. So, in as much as other countries have found a way around it, like Joyce said, quality control, you know, safety measures to make sure that these things that are out there, people are consuming it, and at the end of the day, it doesn't affect them. Do you understand? Mm. And at the end of the day, coming down to Nigeria, we don't have our bodies. NAFDAC is supposed to be in charge of it. If you say anybody should be in charge of it, because they're actually the Food and Drug Association, so they are supposed to be in charge of it. But we've never really had NAFDAC giving maybe a pep talk, or maybe saying that this is how it's supposed to be, or have their stamp on. People just go and print out NAFDAC numbers on their products, and they're actually not NAFDAC approved, most of this product. So I just feel that the public should be much more aware of, you know, the benefits. Yes, it's very beneficial, but at the same time, it is not safe. It's the safety measures that are really key. China has been in trado medical for a very long time, and I'm not sure they're going to leave it anytime soon, because the truth is, China has evolved as a country, and it is part of their culture. Trado medical drugs is part of a Chinese culture. That is why they live long. Yeah. You know, because they found a way to, you know, medically improvise and improve these processes of producing drugs traditionally.
And in defense of your herbalist, when back in the day when alcohol was, you know, discovered, especially vodka was considered a drug, not a beverage. It actually translates loosely. The Roman name in that time translates loosely to water of life. Oh. Yes, and they give it to people that they perceive are really, really sick or are dying.
That explains it.
So she's coming from somewhere.
Yeah. All right, so while we're going to wrap up this line of conversation, let's begin to drop our last words.
Well, for me, I would say even if you want to patronize trado medical means, you should be careful. Know exactly what this thing is working for. Be sure that it won't give, should I say, a side effect that is like uncurable or worse than what is actually supposed to cure. And don't be so ignorant when you purchase herbal medicines. Yes, they are beneficial, but then they can also be really harmful to you. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to say.
Even though several doctors alive would find me and kill me for saying this, but I do believe that herbal drugs work. I believe that when applied properly, I feel like they do the job. I just feel like people should be extremely cautious when they use medical drugs. I would advise that you go to a practitioner that has been in the business for years. Whether or not they have a specific dose, whether or not they have a specification for you to use, experience is always at play. So most likely whatever you're experiencing, they could have seen it in their line of work at some point and then gotten some knowledge on how best to prescribe the drugs for you. So I do believe that both orthodox and traditional medicine work well where applicable, but the Nigerian government should do so much more work in making sure that there's information out there about how these drugs are controlled, curtailed, and distributed.
Yes, you've heard it from the smartest minds on the breakfast show this morning. With this, we've come to the end of the Healthy Living edition. Health is worth like this day, and it is very key for you to take your health very seriously. On this note, we've come to the end. By today, 4 p.m., we'll be having the one-on-one with Kewe Odupe, and tomorrow on Saturday, we're going to be having the weekend rundown with your musketeers. My name is Neki Moye, and do have yourself a lovely weekend.